Hi, this is Mariette Bates from the City University of New York. I'm the director of the Disability Studies program, and I see we have a question about where we get the slides. And we are going to put the link in the chat box for you so you can download them. When you registered for this session, there is a link there where you registered, but we'll put it again in the chat box for you so you can download them. And then I can just answer any questions you have. So welcome again. I am the director of the Disability Studies program here at the City University of New York, and we offer a bachelor's degree in disability studies, an advanced certificate in disability studies, a master's of arts degree in disability studies, and a new master's of science in disability services in higher ed. But I'm here today to talk to you about and to answer your questions about the Master's of Arts and the Advanced Certificate in Disability Studies. And one of the questions you might have is, what's the difference between the Advanced Certificate and the Masters of Arts? The Advanced Certificate is a 4-course sequence. So in order to receive the certificate, you would take 3 courses in the Disability Studies program. There are 2 required courses, and then you can choose any 2 electives. And if you complete those courses, you can receive the Advanced Certificate. Our Master of Arts program is a 10-course master's program. So there are 6 required courses, and then you would take 4 electives. So the good news is that if you enroll in the Advanced Certificate because you want some graduate work in disability studies, but you're not certain that you might want to apply to the master's, the courses from the Advanced Certificate would transfer into the master's program if you decide you want to continue and go for the master's. So there, we kind of paired this information session because they kind of go together to some extent. People who are certificate students sit in the same courses as with master's students. You just take fewer courses. So our program is sponsored by the City University of New York, and CUNY is a huge, if you don't know about us. We have 24 campuses, about 290,000 students. And so we're a very big university. Some of our schools that are part of CUNY are 160 years old, and some of them are new. And our school is one of the more recently developed schools. Our mission is to develop programs that address the needs of the workforce in New York City and elsewhere. So we think that the people who are serving and working with people with disabilities and people with disabilities themselves are really important. So we develop these programs to try to address the need. Disability studies itself came from, really originated in the 1970s, when for the first time people with disabilities could come onto college campuses because they became more accessible after the Rehab Act of 1973. And they started to kind of turn the lens of whatever academic subject they were studying on their own experience as a person with a disability. So if they were studying sociology, they were studying the sociology of disability. If they were studying literature, they were looking at representations of disability in literature. If they were studying law, they were looking at the law and as it pertains to disability and disability rights. So disability studies is a multidisciplinary degree where we kind of borrow from all of these fields: sociology and the social sciences, the humanities, medicine, law, and we use different lenses to examine disability in society with a critical eye. So that's about disability studies. Our program here, the Advanced Certificate Program, started in 2004. So it's got 14 years of course offerings, and the Masters of Arts was launched in 2009. So we have some experience with offering these courses and these programs. So let's see what questions you have. Just you can type them in the chat box, and I will see them, and then I will answer them. So please let me know what questions you might have about our program. Hopefully you've downloaded the slides and had a chance to review them. So I'd rather be about this. Aha! Can you speak to the difference between the online experience and the classroom-based experience? I think that I taught for quite a number of years in-person classes, and I think that there is a difference, but I think that the learning environment is rich in both, in both venues, in both formats. In an in-person class, you would come in and the professor would perhaps do a lecture, show a movie, you would discuss the reading, you would have papers and so forth. I think that in the online experience, it's harder for students who if in an in-person class might not speak up very much, because in an online environment you really have to participate. It's the only way we know that you're actually engaged in the class. So when I was in school, I was one of those students who didn't talk very much. But in the online environment, our students are engaged and they speak with each other, but they also have to engage with the faculty and with each other every week. I would say that part of the difference is that in the online experience, the main method that you use to communicate with the faculty and with your fellow classmates is through writing, unless you have a challenge with writing, and we have an alternative format for you to express your, the views that you have and what you've learned. But that's the primary difference. I think it takes a little bit more time to some extent, but you do save commuting time, so it probably all evens out. So Karen says that she works for a local government as an accessibility manager. You have 10 years working with the ADA, but you want to expand your knowledge. You work 40 hours a week. Can you speak the amount of time for the MA program as well as the certificate? Well, the issue is how many courses you take a semester. So we do have students who take 2 courses a semester who are working, and people who are who are working and have families and so forth, and they manage 2 classes a semester. But we have some students who only can manage 1 because of their other responsibilities. I do think studying online is pretty rigorous. We have students who, there's writing every week, and when we have, as I said, the primary way that you communicate with your instructors is through the written words, so it can be a little bit more time consuming. I would say if you budget about 6 hours a week per class, that you'd be okay. And that, I know, sounds like a lot, but if you realize that if you're commuting and sitting in class, you also are taking up time, just driving or sitting on the subway. So I think it kind of, you probably put in a little bit more time if you're taking an online class, but it's not as much as you think. In terms of graduation, as I said, some students take 1 class a semester, whereas some take 2 classes a semester. So if you're taking 2 classes a semester, you can complete the certificate program in 2 semesters. If you're taking 2 classes a semester and you decide that you take a summer class, you can complete the MA in 2 years. But to be honest, many of our students take a little longer than that because they decide they'd rather have the summer off. And because they're adults and sometimes things happen as an adult. So you might get a new job, or you might move, or your child might get sick, or your parents might, or whatever. So we understand that. We do have people who stop out for a semester and then come back. Consulting jobs that the certificate would support. I'm not sure what consulting jobs you mean. The certificate and disability studies they're not practical kinds of certificates. So disability studies doesn't teach you how to work hands-on with people with disabilities. What we do is examine the interaction between disability and society from a variety of perspectives, so that I would say that if you're interested in consulting in the field, you might, depending on your perspective, it might not be that helpful to you, to be honest. So, okay. How involved are advisors and instructors with contacting online students? We have a lot of interaction. In the classes that I teach, I respond to each student every week. So in many respects, I have much more involvement with the students than I did when I was teaching in person. Because I always had a couple of students who sat in the back of the room and didn't raise their hands and didn't interact with me very much. So in the online environment, I tend to have actually more interaction than I did when I was teaching in person. And, each of our students interacts with at least 2 classmates and me every week. So I would say there's a lot of involvement and a lot of involved. In terms of advisors, because we have a lot of students here, you would essentially have the ability to contact your advisor when you want to do that. And you could also contact me because I'm here. Lisa Pollock is our assistant director, and she's here today as well. And she's the advisor of the graduate students. And she's here most of the time and likes to talk to students. So we'd be happy to do that. And you can also, if you're local, you can come in and meet with us too. So another question. I'm a business major and you work as administrative assistant in the department for your local school district. Is this certificate worth doing with my background? That's not for me to say. It's really for you to say whether you would find it helpful or not. What I will tell you that I worked in the field. I started out in the field of mental health. I worked in the field of intellectual disabilities for about 30 years. And then I started teaching and learning about disability studies. And I learned an awful lot of things that I didn't know, even though I was teaching courses in developmental disabilities for about 10 years when we started offering programs here in disability studies. So I will tell you that there are things that people in our program that people don't know about disability. It's a very broad and rich topic, and I think that it's an important topic. So whether it will be helpful to you in the work that you do, I'm not sure, but I do think that you'll certainly know an awful lot more about disability if you take the certificate or the master's than you do at present. So here's a person, Labna says that you're a diversity trainer. I see. So you want to look at your knowledge of disability and inclusion in the workplace. I do think that you would get a lot of information about disability and diversity. We have a whole course on it, as a matter of fact, overlaps of race, gender, class, and diversity within the disability community, so that, and we do address it as well in other courses. So I think you would learn more about that, and also about accommodations in the workplace, because those are also important. I think you'd have more understanding of what people need and how to accommodate them. Let's see. I'm not sure if it was covered. Can the classroom experience be combined with online? You can. We have students who take the whole program in person. We have students who take the whole program online, and we have some students who kind of mix and match. So in one semester, they might take one in-person class and one online class. So, but because every class has the same learning objectives, but not every instructor achieves those learning objectives in the same way or in the same time frame. So what I mean is that if we have a topic in one of our classes on disability and diversity, one of the instructors might cover it in the first month of the class, whereas another one might cover it in the third month of the class. So you can't start in an online format and then attend some in-person classes in the same semester. With the same class. You have to, if you're committed to take a class online, you have to finish it online for the 15-week semester. If you take it in person, you have to finish it, you know, in person. We do have some hybrid classes though. So sometimes people that are taking classes that are meet primarily in person, you know, have a few weeks where the class might be online, and maybe that would suit your, you know, your needs. Are there separate administration costs for the certificate? I think the application is similar. We're looking at actually reducing the application fee for the master's program here at CUNY, but so I think the application fee is probably different. I think the tuition cost is the same per course. And if we put on, you know, every college does this, we tack on these administrative fees and so forth every semester. And then there's the cost of books. So, so I would say every course in each program probably costs the same. I don't think that you gain much by being a certificate student over a master's student. I think that, or vice versa. I think that the only issue with certificate students is that there's more limited financial support for certificate students. So if you're a master's student, you can get student loans to pay for your degree if you don't have tuition reimbursement from your job or some other way of paying for it. Whereas certificate students don't have the same access to the same kind of loans. So so that's the difference. So here is a question. Let's see, how do I feel the field of disability studies changing in recent years? No, no, I didn't. It was the classroom experience. That was the one I just answered, Lisa. Yeah, it's not here. It's disappeared. So how do you see the field of disability studies changing in recent years? I think there are a lot more programs. When I first started taking courses in disability studies and teaching it, I had, there were about 17 programs, and that included certificate programs, advanced certificate programs. There were a couple of master's degrees in the field. There were majors and minors in the field. The last time I looked, there are 42 colleges and universities offering some degree of disability studies. So, so I think that it's becoming more, people are becoming more aware of it in the field. And okay, so people are becoming more aware in the field of these issues, and that they are, it's becoming more well known, I think. Now, having said that, disability studies, you know, I can't claim that it's a household word the same way psychology is, or the same way that social work is, or rehab counseling. So there are people who don't know about what disability studies is, but I think that the name is pretty self-explanatory, that it's, you know, a multidisciplinary study of disability. So Let's see. So Karen, you asked if it doesn't matter if your bachelor's was not in disability. It doesn't actually, because this is such a multidisciplinary field that we would certainly consider your application if your bachelor's has to do with something entirely different. We think disability touches almost everything, so we're happy to have that. Do courses have an expiration date? Um, our semesters run for 15 weeks. So just as you would take it at a typical university, we start the courses, for example, in this semester, we started the last day of January, we're going to end in mid-May, and people are enrolled in the courses and they take them, and there's a final project that people have. And then at the end of the semester, essentially you lose access to your Blackboard course if you're taking courses online. So just as if you were taking an in-person class, you would be in the class with your classmates for 15 weeks, and then at the end of the classroom is empty. It's the same kind of a way that we do it here. Is financial aid available? People do have access to. There's not financial aid the same way undergraduates have access to TAP and Pell and assistance like that. But there are loans that are available, and our financial aid office is pretty good about that. We also have scholarships for enrolled students that they're competitive, but we do have some dedicated scholarships for disability studies students. Which CUNY campuses offer in-person classes? We're the School of Professional Studies, so we are the Disability Studies program, and our classes are here at the School of Professional Studies. Our building is at 119 West 31st Street, so it's near Penn Station, and we're near the PATH train and practically every subway line. So our classes are here. They are offered at night, usually from 5:30 to 8, because most of our students are working. And the online classes, you take from the convenience of your house or your apartment or wherever you live. Is there a program plan that students need in order to complete the degree in a certain time frame? What's the semester availability of courses? Are courses offered in specific semesters, or are most all available throughout all semesters? We ask that every student start with our foundational course, which is called Psychosocial, Cultural, and Political Aspects excuse me, of disability, and it's kind of introduces you to the field and the topics of disability studies. And other than that, a lot of what we do is work with students on their own plan of study. We don't limit you. We don't really have prerequisites in this program, but there are courses that we wouldn't suggest you take in your first semester or your first year. So for example, in the master's program, we have a course in research methods. Well, that course is really designed to prepare you to do your capstone course. So I wouldn't suggest you take that in the first semester, because you'll forget what you learned by the time you get to your capstone. Similarly, we have a couple of courses that are pretty rigorous, and we wouldn't suggest you take them in the same semester, that you try to stagger it, so you take a more rigorous course with one which might be a little lighter in writing, for example. So we kind of work with you in terms of advisement to do a plan. You don't have to complete this degree in a certain time frame, although we here at the school have been talking about a time frame of 5 years or 7 years, but most of our students fall into that time frame. In terms of semester availability of courses, I try to offer the required courses every semester. There are some times when we don't, when we're not able to do that. But in general, I would say every required course is offered every semester. We have a lot of electives, so we tend to rotate the electives so that if we don't offer them in the spring, we will either offer them in the fall or the following spring. I would say if you're enrolled in the program and you see an elective that you're particularly interested in, you should take it when you see it. Because we have a lot of electives, and in this program we have about 100 students, but some are online and some are in person. So So I try to offer electives to make sure that we have enough students to make a good cohort in the classes. Our classes tend to be small, so they tend to be 15 students or less, but I want to make sure that the classes get offered. So I don't offer every elective every semester, but generally the required courses you can get. With respect to admissions requirement of the G3PM GPA hard and fast rule, we try to look at the totality of your applications. So, I think that GPA is a fairly good predictor of whether people are successful, and we want people to be successful. At the same time, I know that in the disability field, sometimes people have a bachelor's degree and they don't really, it's not necessarily in the field that they ended up working in, or they came to disability a little later. And they then got really passionate and interested in that as a subject, so their GPA for their bachelor's doesn't really reflect either their current experience or their current interests. And we also have students who have disabilities who frankly didn't get the accommodations they needed when they were a bachelor's student. So we try to look at the GPA. If your GPA is 2.9, 2.85, probably there would be no issue about it. We would look at your personal statement and your letters of recommendation, and those would weigh heavily. If your GPA is 2.5, we would probably suggest that you enroll in the advanced certificate program. Try to do well in those programs, get A's in your courses, and then reapply to the master's program, because then you would have a solid track record of graduate work that we could look at, and we would be more inclined at that point in terms of the admissions committee to give you a positive response to an application. So I hope that answers your question. How long are courses good for to finish the AMA program? Oh, well, the courses are in the program, so it's not like if you come in and you take, this DSAB 601 psychosocial, and you took it in 2014, and then you needed to stop out and you want to come back to the program in 2016 or 2018, as your grade is your grade, and we would accept it because you're in the program. So the courses don't expire in that sense. What does the capstone consist of? So in our master's program, students have a choice. They can do a long paper that's similar to a thesis. And some students do human subjects research. Some people write long papers about other subjects that involve just library research and not human subjects research. Or students can also have the opportunity to prepare an e-portfolio. And e-portfolios it's a website that you create that really is personalized to you, reflects what you learned in the program. So students upload their best work. They talk about what they learned in each class. They connect each class to an overall reflection of what they learned in the program. And they put in media if they want, or a resume. So it's particularly good for people who are in this program because they're looking for career advancement. I think that doing a thesis is really helpful, and there are some students that we have who have a particular interest they're very curious about and interested in pursuing, and they're going to prepare a thesis on those subjects. But for some students, an e-portfolio is a better way of reflecting what they learned, so that if they're going to a prospective employer, they can show them what they learned in the program. We have students interned in this program. A lot of our students are working, so we don't have a lot of students that do internships, but this semester I have one student in our master's program who's interning at the mayor's office for people with disabilities, and I have another student who's interning at a museum and working on accessibility issues. So that's just an example. It's a pretty broad array. We've also had students who've done an internship with the New York State Congress, with the Congressional Black Caucus, and worked on disability issues there. So as I said, we don't have a lot of people that do it, because if you're working, sometimes it's hard to find the time to actually put the hours in that internships require. But this semester we do have people who do that. Letters of recommendation don't have to come from past instructors. They can come from supervisors at work, or people who are in a capacity to be able to kind of recommend you and recommend and tell us that you can succeed as a graduate student. So they need to be able to tell us about your ability to work independently and be able to write and so forth. But they don't have to be past instructors. We would like it if you have one from a past instructor and one from maybe a supervisor. But they can't come from people who are like, you know, family members, your mother, your best friend. We have had students who've gotten letters of recommendations from their sons, from their aunt, from their cousin, from their mother. And we have to reject those. We really need people who are kind of in a professional relationship with you. If you've been a volunteer, the person who supervised you in a volunteer program might be a good recommender, though. That's something that's acceptable. Okay, other questions? Looks like we've hit a wall here. Here we go. Are there any groups of students you feel are underrepresented? I think that, you know, I think our current students are a mix of people who are working in service agencies. So they're working in agencies for people with intellectual disabilities or psychiatric disabilities. We have had some students who work in hospitals as OTs or occupational therapists or physical therapists. We have a number of students who have disabilities themselves. I would say somewhere between, you know, 20 and 30% of our students fall into that category. They have a wide range of disabilities. We have students who are parents or siblings of people with disabilities. We have students who are interested in pursuing a doctoral program. We have some that are interested in public policy, and some of those folks are working in government now, some of our graduates. So I think we have a wide range, particularly in this program. I would say I might like to see more people who are interested, who are from the public sector, or sometimes from NGOs that are working on more global human rights issues. I think that we don't have a lot of people there. We tend not to have so many people from the health professions. So people who work in hospitals and the therapy side of our students tends to be a little thin. But we do have a broad range of students currently, and I can't think of any group that I feel is underrepresented particularly. I think that we do have a wide range of students. Is there guidance on what the letter of recommendation should include? There is, in the application, it's a form that we give to recommenders. It's kind of sent to people. When you apply to the program, you put in the email address of your recommenders, and they get a link, and it's a grid that they fill out, and also we ask them to comment on you know, your capacity for graduate studies. So it's kind of intellectual capacity and your commitment to the field and qualities like that. I noticed the start is the fall of 2018. Can one start in the following spring semester? You can. I think that probably the application isn't up yet for the spring, but we accept students in the fall and the spring. So what I would do is, if you think that you want to come in the spring of 2019, that you just wait for the application to be up. You could apply now, and then if you're admitted, you can defer. But I think it's cleaner for all of us if you just apply for the semester that you're intending to start. But we do accept students both in the fall and in the spring. are there any scholarships or fellowships? We do have scholarships. They're on our website. We have scholarships that are particularly targeted to students in the Disability Studies program. So there's that. And in terms of external scholarships, I would point you to the Foundation Library that has a rich array of individual scholarships that are available for individuals. But that's not something I can direct you to. But we do have scholarships here. We don't have fellowships, mostly because we're a school for working adults, and most of our students can't take advantage of fellowships because they have a job and they're really taking classes at night or online as they can. Well, our deadlines are in May, so if you have a complete application now, we're going to start to review them immediately. But because I have an admissions committee that I need to get together to review applications, I don't gather them unless I have a number to review, because it's just more efficient to do that. So we'll do the first batch of completed applications probably this week if possible, and then probably again in April if we have completed applications then, and then we'll probably wait to the deadline, and as soon as applications are complete we can review them. We tend to have a number of people who submit their applications and they're missing a transcript or missing a recommendation, and the committee can't review applications unless they're complete. So we have to wait for we'll hold your application, but we can't hold it indefinitely. We want you to know, and we need to know how many people are coming to the program. So we'll generally hold your application for a couple of weeks after the deadline to get all the documents in, but we would appreciate it if you could get them in when the deadline, at the deadline, because it just makes it easier for you and easier for us, and we have a much more efficient review process then. So we'll tell you as soon as we can. We usually, as I said, if your application is complete at the deadline, it would take us, I would say, 2 or 3 weeks in order to review them, and then we would let you know right away. We have a process where we have to notify the admissions office and they notify you, but that usually only takes a matter of 3 days, so it's pretty fast. Anything else that people want to know? Because I'm here and I want to talk. I'm happy to have questions. Any more? Okay. If I want to speak more to someone about proposal, yes, of course you can. You can talk to me. My number is on our website. If you go to our website and click on About, and then type my name in, you'll find my phone number. But it's also, I think, at the end of the slides that you downloaded. So you can, if you go to the last slide, it says for more information, and you can find both my email address and my phone number, and you can call me or you can call Lisa Pollock. We're happy to talk to you. What's the process to just take a class? We do have the opportunity for people to take one class as a non-matric student, a non-matriculated student. So the process to do that is you have to call me up first and talk to me about it. And then you work with the registrar. They have a process to review, to register non-matriculated students. I would say to you that it's expensive to do that because we charge you a lot more as a non-matric student. So you can do that if you'd like, and we welcome people to take one class. After that, you'd have to apply to the program. So that's just a departmental policy that we have that's based on our experience of running the program for 14 years. So. So we'd put you, if you call me and talk to me, I would, put you in touch with the registrar after we have a conversation. Okay, new questions, more questions? What's the process? Okay, well, I'll give it another minute, but it looks like I've pretty much answered all the questions that you have. You can always, you can always email me or email Lisa Pollock, and we're happy to talk to you or to answer your questions either by email or by telephone. I'm here most of the time, so, and if not, I will call you back. So please don't hesitate to call and talk about your interests, and we're happy to do that. So I want to thank you for coming tonight and for taking to this afternoon, for taking the opportunity to do this. I'm happy to talk to you. I'm glad there's so much interest today, and we hope that we receive your application in early May. So thanks a lot.